Hello, and welcome to Vision Denial and World Watch 2022. My name is Sam, and if those of you who are new here, I have watched every single playoff of 2022. Yes, every single one of them, even that one. Notably, this particular series we were covering the summer of 2022 on our anticipation and preparation for Worlds. And this you have stumbled upon, or you are a regular subscriber and watcher, to the Meet the Teams portion, where I will take a look at every 24 team, their strengths, weaknesses, play styles, notable quirks, interesting things to look ahead, all in the attempts to at least teach some people who don't watch certain regions what to expect from their teams, or from the teams that are going. That said, there are two caveats to really put forward. First caveat: a lot of the things that I'm going to be talking about are data-driven. I will put a link down below to the Google Docs of all of the data I have aggregated all in one nice spot. All of the data comes from the LOL fandom, Wikipedia, and from the goal.gg website, both of which have very different focuses to their data points, and both are necessary for these kinds of videos to work. That said, there's a limitation to some of this data because the LPL doesn't send their data as consistently as the other regions, and this is something you'll find with any particular data point for LoL esports globally. The LPL will still be missing some things regarding plates, drakes at 15 minutes, and heralds. A lot of their early game is not there. That and everything relating to vision. Second thing that I have to point out, a lot of the emerging regions, specifically Oceania, Turkey, Brazil, Latin America, and Japan, their teams will have some inflated stats in their favor. That being in mind, when we're looking at their stats, a lot of them will look good, notably the Chiefs and Detonation Focus Me. So some of the stats for every team has to be taken with a grain of salt of either being maybe stronger than expected or weaker than expected by quite a bit, notably because of this kind of inflation of statistics. When you're studying data, this is the kind of adjustments you need to do. That said, team-based data will look skewed. Individual data for each player's less so, because of the kinds of data points that they keep track of. All of that to say is that a lot of the notes that I've taken are using data points that have been collected that you can all enjoy for free down below, or in the various websites that I mentioned, but taking into account a lot of the personal notes that I use in conjunction with this data to show you what to expect with these teams. Without further ado, let's take a look at this video's team. I don't know. This is a pre-recorded message. Let's take a look. Let's meet Mad Lions. Mad Lions is the 6th team to qualify for Worlds as the 4th seed to the European LEC. How did they qualify? They lost 2 best of 5s in a row. I'll talk about that more later. Let's meet their coaches. Their head coach, Mac, has been in the coaching scene since 2016 and has gone through a number of teams, including Orihin, Millennium, Splice, and joined Mad Lions for the 2020 season and has stayed since. Cass, on the other hand, is a very old-school support player who played mostly within the European circuit in many of the smaller regions themselves, finally joining for the 2020 season to Mad Lions under the coaching staff and has stayed since. Now, Mad Lions as a team has interesting approaches. Practically most of the effort is in terms of finding early gold within the focus on heralds and plates, and usually that works fairly well, but a lot of their attention is lost when it comes to drakes or even in side lane control. They wind up either within the bottom 5 or below average on many points here, including and especially Vision. They're one of the worst Vision teams that are going to Worlds. And that I don't say lightly. Taking a look, they come last on so many factors here that many of their setups for neutral objectives tend to fall to the wayside, and any team who is remotely faster or has a better grasp on how to apply pressure forces them off of their main strategy, which is very lane oriented. Let's meet Mad Lion's top laner. This famous Turkish player from previously Supermassive in the 2020 season joined Mad Lions in the 2021 season with huge success. But in 2022, that seems to have tapered off a little bit. They've qualified, but amongst a lot of his contemporaries in the top lane, he is below average on a lot of features. Now, that would be one thing, but his participation in terms of kills is fairly low, which would imply that he plays a lot of split pushers, and by all means, 2 out of 3 of them are, but his entire roster doesn't include things that would really indicate that he is specifically just split pushing. And some of this could be attributed to, well, enough champions within different roles, things would look different, but then you would expect almost everything else to look above board. His KDA is abysmal, even by top laner standards, and it's really unfortunate because he is a fairly competent and solid top laner. Part of it has more to do with the game plan that Mad Lions usually opts into, leaving him with very difficult options to work with that they really can't operate on unless they are far ahead. Let's meet Mad Lions jungler, Elyoya. Elyoya was part of the European circuit scene for 2019 till 2020 before joining Mad Lions for the 2021 season to a fairly large success. But coming to the 2022 season, it's more of the same kind of story for Mad Lions where it seems like they're doing okay, and it's, if a formula works, you don't break it. But he figures around a little bit lower than average against most of his peers. And it's one thing to be just average, but with such a limited champion pool compared to many of his other peers, it is not a great sign overall. There is something to say, however, that his kill participation and kill share is above average within the top 10, and it honestly probably indicates a lot more about his approach to the laning phase, where he's able to assist many of his teammates in general and give space where necessary. The kind of champions that he plays specifically are great in skirmishes and are good at invading in general. He gets the job done. I just don't think he just gets it done as efficiently as the others. Let's meet Mad Lions mid laner, Nisqy. Many North American and European fans may recognize Nisqy as having been part of both Cloud9, Splice, and Fnatic, but having been dropped during the spring season from Fnatic to become a substitute player, and then opting to join Mad Lions in the 2022 summer season. Nisqy here is below average by quite a margin compared to the rest of the mid laners. And that's to be expected given the intense competition that this lane has. One thing that he does have going for himself is a top 3 or top 4 kill participation. Top 3 kill participation. He has a huge emphasis on team fighting and making sure that he provides zone control and CC or any crowd control of any sort to the fight. Nisqy is honestly a very strong, serviceable mid laner who, by sheer coincidence of the situation, is in a pool of mid laners who are so severely aggressive and consistent in their damage making that Nisqy will have the large task of making sure to suppress them, if Mad Lions can get to that point. Let's meet the bot laner of Mad Lions, Unforgiven. This is Unforgiven's rookie year in the LEC, also making it towards Worlds for the first time. He had been roaming around in the European circuit otherwise, but this is definitely his rookie year. And he's doing pretty well for himself, especially within the confines of the LEC, but given a nice cursory look around, you can see that Unforgiven is not really doing so well, not compared to the other bot laners. Now, granted, all of the bot laners are incredibly stacked this year, but it says a lot of things when you figure in the top 7 of the highest percentage gold shared, and you're not coming up with the same kind of numbers that you should. Unforgiven will have a great task of trying to challenge other bot laners in what seems to be much more skirmishy type situation, as we look at his kill participation being fairly low, but his kill share is so incredibly high within his team. He is just fighting, not necessarily with any rhyme or reason, and most of the time without the team preparing for it. So we'll see how well he does in the environment where he'll probably be put under higher scrutiny. Let's meet Mad Lions support. Kaiser. Kaiser started in his official debut with Mad Lions in the 2020 season and has been with them ever since. And Kaiser, I think, is the clutch/star player of Mad Lions. Looking at how his stats line up with everybody else's, it is, quite frankly, just above average on some instances and otherwise just well within. That said, when you look at his gold per minute and his CS per minute, you can tell he is doing a lot of work with very little, and that's a sign of a very solid support. Taking a look partially around his champion pool, it's fairly limited, but so is the rest of Mad Lions, and he seems to be doing an incredibly solid job of at least initiating or causing the actual steps that would allow Mad Lions to really work around those neutral objectives. Whenever Mad Lions is playing, Kaiser is the one to follow. Seeing where he ends up on the map is really going to be telling as to what direction they want to play, especially as heralds show up or plates start to fall. All in all, Mad Lions, just generally speaking, really bother me. Not in the sense of like they're a terrible team. No, they're fairly passable and maybe at worst mediocre. It's the fact that they didn't win a single best of 5 to qualify for Worlds. And it's very telling in the way that their players line up. They have the smallest champion pool out of any team. Like collectively speaking, they have the smallest champion pool. They tend to be very below average and on occasion are above average, but nothing about their approach to the game towards neutral objectives, vision, side lane pressure, any of it. Not like there's no part about this that lets me know that Mad Lions is a shoo-in for any stage of the game. Heck, going into play-ins and Mad Lions against Royal Never Give Up and DRX and Saigon Buffaloes, not looking great for a team that, while very aggressive in the early game as they head into the mid game, loses their thunder, or if they never had their thunder to begin with at the start of the game, then they just lose all hope, and it's really unfortunate. But there's a chance for them to prove me wrong. It's mostly based off of the observation I had while watching all of the different playoffs and the stats that are in front of me. I'd like to hear what you have to say in the comments down below. Do you think Mad Lions is totally going to be able to get out of play-ins without any hesitations, regardless of some of their weaker vision applications and their only ability to win games is via like the early leads? Or are you of the same mindset as me? They're not going to make it out, and even if they made it out, their opponents in the group stages are going to be way too difficult. Any and all of those thoughts in the comments down below would be greatly appreciated. I'm also going to have a bunch of videos here. Editing me will have a nightmare to work with, where you've got things like all the different playoffs I reviewed. How did my Mad Lions qualify for the whole thing? Spoiler alerts, they really just lost twice. All the other teams that have qualified, and also my thoughts across the last 6 weeks are all going to be in little playlist boxes all over the place. And if you like this kind of content, leave a like and subscribe. I greatly appreciate all of you who've watched. It's been a blast so far. I'll be making more of these as we go through Worlds. And with that, I'll see you all next time.